Now this episode is about the first floor. And right at the beginning is this beautiful wooden beam. That was kind of my favorite piece because I found this big beam in a ruined cabin not far up in the woods, and then I removed it and dragged it down here by myself. It was a bit like rafting. I floated the beam over the thick layer of leaves and managed to bring it all the way to the house by myself. With the help of Marino and Chris and Matthew, we were able to place it just like down in the kitchen across the long beams that run for a good 6 meters from front to back. Again, actually only as an additional security. This wall was not really load-bearing. Then you can see here the scaffolding again, how the walls were built. Quite simply with a small wooden frame, and then in it the stones were piled up and stabilized with a mortar. A fine wall of maybe 15 centimeters. Quickly it was gone, and here you can already see the whole room with its new size. And of course it's really such a nice moment when you can see the room you've dreamt of in its future size. Then of course it's also time to think about what will happen to the walls. Here I decided to free the back wall from the old mortar and renovate it as a natural stone wall. This is what happened in the summer 22. Summer when also these impressive thunderstorms appear. As long as it doesn't hail, it's a great experience to see it brewing between the mountains. It usually comes from the right, from the west, and you can see how suddenly the opposite village is enveloped, and you can prepare yourself. It will only take a few minutes, then the thunderstorm will be with us. Then I already have this room on the first floor provisionally prepared for guests for during the summer vacations, cleaned it in a shabby chic style. Shortly thereafter, of course, the dust orgy has started again. I take care of the edges of the ceiling where there were not whole beams, but some made of boards as a kind of fake beams, which were then filled with old leaves and branches and nuts and so on, loose material from the forest. It's also enormously dusty, of course, and you just have to go through it without much hesitation, which is the motto at all, I think, in such conversions. Do not be afraid of fierce access. There is always a solution for everything. That's sort of my conclusion. And when I was already at this rough work, I thought, okay, I have to raise all the doors anyway. They all measure only 175 centimeters. I'm 185 tall. That means I periodically hit my head at least once a week, and of course that's super annoying. Therefore, this door lintel must go. Since little space to the ceiling is missing at all, I decided to just knock off everything on top. Then I also widened the door at the same time. I always had in mind that I would like to have double doors. I like these old Italian double doors. I think it's great if you can leave just one narrow door panel open. And I'll want to rebuild that later. Here I'm already finishing off with the new width, and that was also a little bit of my initiation to bricklaying. Under the guidance of Marino, I've already closed the lacking part with the old stones and cement. Here I take care of the natural stone walls, which I want to fill with a lime mortar so that you can see the stones from the original wall nicely. First I just had to wash the wall with water and a brush. It's all still full of this old lime and sand that's in between the stones. Tapping and washing out all this dusty cloth, and then in a first step stabilizing the wall with a normal cement so that even smaller stones are held in place. In a second step, I then applied a nice beige mortar. There you can actually decide when working how much stone you should finally see, what you want to cover, where stones are missing. Then also look for fitting stones in your stone supply. If you step back once in a while and look at the wall as a whole picture, the work is really fun and it's a creative process. Actually, a little bit like back to my roots. Of course, you can quickly get lost in the details, but you get a real connection to the object. And I think to myself that maybe later I can really remember certain places. What was my decision in each case? Where to put something? Where to leave only mortar? Okay, up. And in between also again visits of Billy who would like to play, endlessly chasing a piece of wood.